Assets. Asset is a resource with economic value that an individual, corporation, or country owns or controls with the expectation that it will provide a future benefit. Assets are reported on a company's balance sheet and are bought or created to increase a firm's value or benefit ng firm's operation. So sa accounting, ang cash is not only limited sa pera, and it includes on negotiable instruments such as checks, bank drafts, and money orders, because these are acceptable by the bank. Account receivable. Account receivable is the balance of money due to a firm for goods or services delivered or used but not yet paid for by customers. Prepaid expenses is a type of asset on the balance sheet that results from a business making advance payments for goods or services to be received in the future. Land. Land is real estate that is exclusive of any buildings or other assets situated on the property.
Liability. A liability is something a person or company owes, usually a sum of money. Liabilities are settled over time through the transfer of economic benefits, including money, goods, or services. Recorded on the right side of the balance sheet, liabilities include loans, accounts payable, mortgages, deferred revenues, bond, warranties, and accrued expenses. Examples of these are accounts payable. Accounts payable refers to an account within the general ledger that represents a company's obligation to pay of a short-term debt to its creditors or suppliers. The last one is unearned revenue, is money received by an individual or company for a service or product that has yet to be provided or delivered.
And now, let us define owner's equity. It is essentially the owner's rights to the assets of the business. It's what's left over for the owner after subtracted all the liabilities from the assets. Under of owner's equity is first the expenses. It is an expense is the cost of the operation that a company incurs to generate revenue. Second is the capital. Capital is typically cash or liquid assets being held or obtained for expenditures. And lastly, revenue. Revenue is the total amount of income generated by the sale of goods or services related to the company's primary operation.
Objectivity Principle. The Objectivity Principle states that you should only use factual variable data in your books, never a subjective measurement of values, even if subjective data appears to be superior variable data. The variable data should always be used. The accounting world operates on the set of assumptions or things that accountant can assume are always true. UAB offers online bachelor's and master degree program that educate accountant and business professional on this principle and how to apply them in real world. I have an example of objectivity principle. Sinusubukan ng isang kumpanya na makakuha ng financing para sa karagdagang pagpapalawak ng planta, ngunit gusto ng bangko ng kumpanya na makakita ng kopya ng mga financial statement nito bago nito pautangin ang kumpanya ng anumang pera. Ang bookkeeper ng kumpanya ay nagpiprint ng isang income statement mula sa accounting system nito at ipinapadala ito sa mga bangko. Malamang natatanggihan ng bangko ang financial statement na ito dahil hindi ito hinanda ng isang independent party. Sa madaling salita, ang income statement na ito ay lumalabag sa objectivity principle. Cost principle. According to the cost principle, cost is a record at the price actually paid for an item. The cost principle is an accounting concept that requires the numbers on financial statement to be based on actual expenses incurred during the period from business transaction. To put it another way, all accounting information must be measured in cash or cash equivalent terms. Example of cost principle, kapag ang isang retailer ay bumili ng inventaryo mula sa isang vendor, itinatala nito ang pagbili sa cash na presyo na aktwal na binabayaran. Ang halaga ay katumbas ng halaga ang binayaran sa transaksyon. Time period principle. The time period principle states that a company should report the financial result of its operation over a set of period time, which is usually monthly, quarterly, or annually. Example of time period principle. Ang kumpanyang Meta ay nagbibigay ng mga serbisyong nakahalaga ng 2,500 sa kumpanyang Beta sa unang quarter ng taon. Babayaran ng kumpanyang Beta ang cash para sa mga serbisyong ito sa susunod na quarter. Ayon sa time period principle, kung ang kumpanya ng Meta ay naghahanda ng mga financial statement nito sa katapusan ng unang quarter ng taon, dapat nitong isama ang kita sa serbisyong ito na 2,500 sa income statement ito para sa unang quarter.
Matching principle. This stipulates that a company match expenses and revenues in the same reporting period. In essence, expenses shouldn't be recorded when they are paid, but rather at the same time as the revenue. Halimbawa na lang po natin na may isang kumpanya ang bumili ng bagong computer sa halagang 10,000 pesos noong 2019. And then yung computer na yun ay inaasahang tatagal ng 10 taon. So, ibig sabihin nun, ito ay gagawa ng mga proyekto para sa inaasahang dekada. Tapos yung presyo ng computer ay dapat tumugma sa kita na ginawa nito para sa kumpanya. Sa ganitong sitwasyon ay dapat singilin ng kumpanya ang price tag ng computer sa depreciation expense na 1,000 pesos kada taon na nagdaragdag ng hanggang 10 taon. Accrual accounting. It is an accounting method that records revenue and expenses when they are incurred, regardless of when cash is exchanged. The term accrual refers to any individual entry recording of revenue or expenses in the absence of cash transactions. For example, may 5 empleyado ang isang kumpanya na may 200 pesos na arawang sahod na binabayaran every Friday. Tapos yung mga empleyado ay nagtatrabaho 5 times a week. Sabihin na lang natin na ang December 31 ay Wednesday. In this case, ang 3 araw na naibigay na ay i-multiply sa 200 pesos bilang daily wage at i-multiply naman ng 5 as bilang ng mga empleyado. At ito ay may kabuuang 3,000 pesos under accrued wages at ito din ay itatala bilang gastos dahil ito ay natamna.
By concern principle, it is an accounting term for a company that has the resources needed to continue operating indefinitely until it provides evidence to the contrary. Example nito ay ang vacuum cleaner. Sa tuwing gagamitin ang mga ito, ay nilalabas ito pagkatapos isasaksak sa pagkakalang tatakbo ito kapag pinindot mo ang unang button. Naasahan mo na ang vacuum ay mabubuhay. Dahil wala kang katibayan na hindi ito mabubuhay, ang going concern principle sa accounting is much like your vacuum cleaner. You assume that your vacuum cleaner is operable because you have no evidence that it is broken. This principle states that all relevant and necessary information for the understanding of a company's financial statements must be included in public company filings. Example of this ay nirecord ni Mark lahat ng broken materials na natanggap niya 3 weeks ago, so disclosure principle or relevant and material information should be reported.
It is the concept in accounting which is recognize and record expenses and liabilities, certain or uncertain, as soon as possible, but recognize revenue and asset when they are assured of being received. For example of this ay dapat kilalanin ng entity ang mga pananaguda na nag-aangkin sa empleyado para sa legal na kaso, kahit na hindi sigurado ang mga entity kung nabigo sila. Maternity principle. This state that in accounting standard can be ignored if the net impact of doing so has a small impact of financial statement, that the user of that statement would not be missed out.
Business entity principle. This states that the business is separate from the owners of the business. Example of this, Mr. John has acquired of a floor of a building having 3 walls for $1,400 per month. He uses 2 walls for business and 1 for personal purposes. According to the business entity concept, there would be a separation of personal cash to business earnings. So, bali 1,000 na lang, which is the rent of the 2 walls, ang valid expenses of the business. Monetary principle. It's the record of the business transaction that can be started of the terms of a currency, according of the monetary unit concept. Example of this is Kyla. Kyla is a Filipino living in Hong Kong. Made a financial report in dollar kahit na may kliyente sila sa Philippines.
Before proceeding to the examples of doing journal entry, the account and trial balance, let us first talk about the basic accounting equation. The basic accounting equation, also called as the balance sheet equation, represents the relationship between the assets, liabilities, and owner's equity of a person or business. It is the foundation for the double entry bookkeeping system. For each transaction, the total debits are equal to total credits. The basic accounting equation is assets is equal to equity plus liability. When you add the equity and liability, this will be equal to assets. As an example, the leading retailer XYZ Corporation reported the following on its balance sheet for its latest full fiscal year. It shows that the total assets is equal to $170 billion, the total liabilities is equal to $120 billion, and the shareholders' equity is equal to $50 billion. If we calculate the right-hand side of the accounting equation, which is equity plus liabilities, we arrive at $50 billion plus $120 billion is equal to $170 billion, which matches the value of the assets reported by the company.
Good day! Ayan, ngayon pag-uusapan natin ang journal entry. But before we begin, syempre, let's define journal entry muna. So, journal entry shows all the effects of a business transaction in terms of debit and credit. Yun nga, dito pinapakita kung ano ang nagiging epekto ng bawat transaction ng isang entity sa debit and credit area. So, kung gusto mo nang malaman kung paano nga ba nagre-record ng journal entry, panghintay mo, tara na! Ito yung journal natin, yung transaction natin. Ayan, makikita natin, nandyan yung date. Diyan natin susulat yung date. Yung account title and explanation. Itong posting reference, debit and credit. Sabi nga natin, di ba, yung posting reference, hindi muna natin siya ilalagay kasi nire-record lang yung posting reference kapag posted na yung bawat account sa ledger. So, simulan na natin. Ayun. On May 1, Miss Valeria invested 250,000 pesos to organize her wedding consultancy. Nagkaroon ng cash yung business niya. Tapos, yung 250 na yun na rin yung magiging capital ng business niya. Cash is under ng asset. Ay, may nakasulat ng daya. Ayan. Under siya ng asset account. So, nag-increase yung asset account natin, kaya sa debit natin siya nilagay. Cash, debit amounting 250,000 pesos. Ngayon naman po is pumunta tayo sa Valeria Capital. Since nag-increase yung equity natin, yung owner's equity, sa credit naman siya i-record. Next naman po is the explanation. So, May 1 po, ang nilagay po nating explanation is Miss Valeria's initial investment. Next is the second transaction for May 1. Miss Valeria, she rented office space and paid 2 months rent in advance, 8,000 pesos. This transaction or this entry is an example of exchange asset. In this case, if the expense is paid in advance but not yet incurred or hindi pa po nagagamit, it will be considered as an asset. This kind of transaction is what we call the prepaid expense. Ngayon, kapag ni-record po natin siya, ganito yung kalalabasan. So, kung nakikita nyo po, wala tayong date dito. Kapag pareho lang naman po ng date yung dalawang transaction like this, hindi na po kailangan pang isulat yung date nung pangalawang entry. So, prepaid rent, debit kasi asset siya, di ba? Tapos, debit, 8,000 pesos. Then, nag-decrease tayo sa cash. So, napunta siya sa credit account. So, cash, credit, 8,000 pesos. And ang explanation po natin ay rent paid in advance. Now, let's move to the transaction on May 2. So, 1 year yung binigay sa kanya na parang palugit para mabayaran ng buo yung nautang niya, 210,000 pesos sa Metro Bank. So, si Miss Valeria daw ay nag-issue ng promissory note sa Metro Bank for her loan accounting 210,000 pesos na gagamitin niya para sa pagbili ng service vehicle. So, dahil nag-loan si Miss Valeria, nadagdagan yung cash niya. So, sa cash, debit, 210,000 pesos. So, for the credit, we will record notes payable. Dahil sa pag-utang ni Miss Valeria sa bangko, nagkaroon siya ng notes payable. So, notes payable, credit, 210,000 pesos. Explanation, notes issued by Miss Valeria for her loan. Next is the second transaction on May 2. So, sa tingin niyo po, magkakaroon ba tayo ng entry dito sa date na to? Hindi po. So, this transaction has no entry. Kasi, ang sabi na naman po dito, she hired an office assistant and an account executive. So, meaning, wala pong financial transaction na nangyari. On May 4, acquired service vehicle for 420,000 pesos. So, bumili daw ng service vehicle noong May 4. Yan, service vehicle, debit, 420,000 pesos. So, dahil bumili tayo, nabawasan ang ating cash. Nag-decrease ang ating asset. So, na yung cash natin is sa credit natin i-record amounting 420,000 pesos. Explanation, acquisition of service vehicle. Second transaction on May 4. Paid Prudential Guarantee and Assurance Incorporation 14,400 pesos for a 1-year comprehensive insurance coverage on the service vehicle. So, ito, kagaya lang din siya nitong second entry nung May 1. Prepayment din siya. Pero dito, ang paid in advance is yung insurance. So, ang insurance yung binayaran niya in advance. So, the entry will be... Proceed na tayo sa account title. So, prepaid insurance, debit, 14,400. Credit sa cash kasi nabawasan ng ating asset. So, cash, credit, 14,000 pesos. Explanation, insurance, paid in advance. May 5. Miss Valeria acquired office equipment from the Fair and Square Emporium for 60,000 pesos, paying 15,000 in cash and the balance next month. So, dito, bumili daw si Miss Valeria ng mga office equipment worth 60,000 pesos. Nagbayad muna siya ng paunang 15,000 pesos in cash and the balance will be paid next month. So, ibig sabihin, yung balance na yon yung magiging utang ni Miss Valeria. So, May 5, office equipment, debit 60,000 pesos. Then, sa credit ay cash kasi nabawasan na naman ang pera ni Miss Valeria dahil sa pagbili niya ng office equipment. So, pero kung titignan mo, diba, kung yan pa lang, hindi siya mag-i-equal. Hindi mag-i-equal ang ating debit at credit dahil yung debit natin ay 60 at ang credit natin is 15 pa lang. So, kaya, i-record din natin ang accounts payable. Yung accounts payable na yun yung balance or yung utang ni Miss Valeria na 45,000 pesos. So, equal na sila. Explanation, acquisition of office equipment.
So we have here another example on how we are going to create a journal entry. So we have here the problem. Taylor Swift is a painting contractor. During the month of September 2017, she compiled the following transactions. So si Taylor Swift daw po ay isang painting contractor. And then ito po yung mga transactions niya during the month of September 2017. And we will record it po on our journal entry. So let's create na po our journal entry. So let's start with September 1. So sabi po dito, transferred 250,000 cash from personal savings account to the company's bank account. So nag-transfer daw po ng 250,000 cash. So automatically, our debit will be cash amounting 250,000. And then, dahil nga po nakikita natin dito na nagkaroon po ng investment, which is yung 250,000 cash po na nanggaling sa personal savings account ay napunta sa company's bank account. So, meaning, nadagdagan po dito ay yung capital. So, our credit will be capital amounting 250,000. On September 4 naman po, sabi po dito ay purchase painting supplies on account for 3,300. So, nagkaroon po dito ng pag-purchase ng painting supplies. So, automatically, our debit will be painting supplies amounting 3,300. And dahil nga po ito ay purchase on account, so meaning po, ito ay inutang. So, our credit will be accounts payable amounting po na 3,300. On September 8 naman po, received 2,500 cash for painting an apartment room. So, sinasabi po dito na si Taylor Swift na po ay naka-receive ng 2,500 pesos cash. So, automatically, our debit will be cash amounting 2,500. ang pinag-usapan po natin dito ay yung servisyo niya po sa pag-paint niya po ng apartment. So, automatically, our credit will be service revenue. Amounting 2,500. On September 22 naman po, paid electricity bill for 800 pesos. So, automatically, alam na po natin, our debit will be utilities expense. So, amounting po siya na 800 pesos. And then, dahil nga po nagbayad tayo, which is in cash po ng electricity bill, so automatically, our credit will be cash. Amounting also 800 pesos. On September 25 naman po, paid 9,000 pesos on the note signed for the service. So, makikita po natin dito na nagbayad daw po ng 9,000 pesos dun sa note na kailangan po nilang bayaran for the service. So, our debit here will be notes payable. Amounting po na 9,000 pesos. And dahil nga po, ang pinambayad naman po natin dito ay cash, which is 9,000 pesos. So, automatically, our credit will be cash. Amounting 9,000 pesos. So, lastly po, on September 30, receive 5,600 in cash for painting 2-room apartment. So, naka-receive daw po si Taylor Swift ng 5,600 pesos in cash. So, automatically, our debit will be cash. Amounting po siya na 5,600. So, dahil ang pinag-usapan din po natin dito ay yung service niya or servisyo niya sa pag-paint niya po ng 2-room apartment. So, automatically, our credit will be service revenue. Amounting 5,600. So, that will be the journal entry of Taylor Swift's transactions on the month of September 2017.
A T account is an informal term for a financial records that uses double entry bookkeeping. And also, T account is a graphic representation of a general ledger account. So, presented is a journal entry and we will make a T account out of this journal entry. So, this is the example of T account. T account siya kasi letter T yung itsura niya. Sa taas ng letter T, dun nakalagay yung account title. And sa left side, dun nakalagay yung debit, which is DEA sa dealer, stands for drawings or withdrawals, expenses, and asset. And sa right side, dun nakalagay yung credit, which is LER sa dealer, stands for liabilities, equity or owner's equity, and revenue. So let's start to record the transactions using T accounts. So let's record the cash and capital on T accounts nung January 1. So, account title is cash, which is 10,000 na nakalagay siya sa debit. So, yung debit is nasa left side nga. So, ilalagay natin siya sa left side, yung 10,000. Next is capital. Account title is capital, which is 10,010 na nakalagay sa credit, and ilalagay natin siya sa right side or sa credit side ng T account. So, dito. So, yung next na i-record natin is car and accounts payable nung January 3. Accounts title is car. Account title is car, which is 5,000 na nakalagay siya sa debit. So, ilalagay natin siya sa left side ng T account or sa debit side ng T account. So, dito. 5,000. Next is accounts payable. Account title is accounts payable. So, sa accounts payable, which is 5,000 na nakalagay sa credit. So, nakalagay siya sa credit and ilalagay natin siya sa right side or sa credit side ng T account. Let's record the advertising expense and cash nung January 5. Accounts title is advertising expense. So, yung advertising expense, nakalagay siya sa debit, which is 100. So, ilalagay natin siya sa left side or debit side ng T account. So, next is cash, which is 100 sa credit. So, dahil nga may account title na tayong cash, So, dito na natin siya i-record sa right side or sa credit side. So, ang next naman na i-record natin is accounts receivable and service revenue nung January 7. So, accounts title is accounts receivable. So, accounts receivable which is 250. So, nasa debit side siya. So, ilalagay natin siya sa left side or debit side ng T account. Yung record na natin. Next is service revenue. Account title is service revenue. Which is 250. Nasa credit. So, sabi nga, pag nasa credit, sa T account, nasa right side siya. Or credit side ng T account. So, dito, sa right. So, after recording the transaction using T account, i-determine naman natin yung ending balances of each account. Sa pag-determine ng ending balance ng bawat account, compute muna natin yung total ng debit at credit ng isang account. So, yung total ng debit ng cash is 10,000. And total ng cash at credit is, so, ima-minus natin. So, 10,000 minus 100 is 9,900. And applying the procedure to capital, car, accounts payable, advertising expense, accounts receivable, and service revenue. At nakuha na po natin yung ending balance ng bawat account.
So, what is trial balance? The trial balance is a list of all accounts with their respective debit or credit balance. It is prepared to verify the equality of debits and credits in the ledger at the end of each accounting period or at any time the posting are updated. So, ibig sabihin nun, sa trial balance daw, doon daw nakalagay yung list of all accounts. So, from cash to account receivable, to supplies, and to liabilities. And nandun din yung capital. Ikita din natin sa trial balance yung revenue and expenses. And makikita din natin doon your corresponding debit or credit balance. So, the procedure in the preparation of a trial balance are those list the account titles on numerical order, and then the second one, obtain the account balance of each account from the ledger and enter the debit balances in the debit column and the credit balance in the credit column. And the third one is add the debit and credit columns, and the last one is compare the totals.
So, this one is presented as a journal entry, and let us make a trial balance using this journal entry. Before that, ilalagay muna natin yung list ng mga accounts natin. Ilalagay mo natin yung account, yung credit, yung debit rather, and yung credit. So, kanina sa journal entry, kita nyo naman yung list of accounts. So, ilalagay natin ngayon is cash, then yung accounts receivable, and then next ng accounts receivable is yung car naman, then accounts payable, then sunod yung capital. And sunod nun is syempre yung revenue. And the last one is expense. So, ano nga ba yung cash? Syempre ang cash is part siya, under siya ng debit. So, nakalagay dito yung debit, which is yung 9,900. And ang accounts receivable ay under din siya ng debit. Kaya dito nakalagay yung 250. And yung car is part din ng debit. So, here is the 5,000 pesos. And sa accounts payable, syempre payable. Kaya nakalagay siya dito sa credit. So, ilagay natin yung accounts payable sa credit. So, yung 5,000 pesos. And then, yung capital natin is nakalagay din sa credit, 10,000. And yung service revenue naman na 250 dito din sa credit. And syempre, yung advertising expenses dito natin ilalagay sa debit.
Natapos na natin ilagay lahat, i-identify kung saan siya ilalagay ko sa debit pa o sa credit. So, nalagay na natin lahat. So, ang kailangan natin gawin next is to compare. So, i-calculate natin pag-add natin lahat yung debit. So, 9,900 plus 250 plus 5,000 plus 100 is equals to 15,250. And then, so the credit naman is yung 5,000 plus 10,000 plus 250 is equals to 15,250. So, kung makikita nyo, balance siya.